Welcome, listeners, to the secret door, where mind and matter blur even more. With Tor and Mike, entice them to lead. We dive into Project Gateway's mystic creed. Welcome to the FullGrownPizza Podcast, where mysteries linger and legends outlast. From cryptids to secrets, our journey is vast. Today we uncover the mind-bending past. So gather round, where science meets the strange, through the gateway where reality's rearranged. This is the podcast where boundaries fade, exploring the truth behind the CIA's shade. Behind the CIA's shade.
All right, we are live for the FullGrownPizza Podcast. This is episode 26. Make sure to hit the like, follow, subscribe button, as well as that notification bell so you are aware every time we go live. Unfortunately, I was sick last week, so we were not able to go live last week. Otherwise, I would be in the bathroom the whole time. That wouldn't sound very good. So... so
A lot of echo.
yeah, a lot of echoey. It's reverberating.
Acoustics is fantastic in there. You don't lie about that.
That's true. I mean, just picture when you sing in the shower and stuff. It always sounds much better in there. So, but
Yeah, but you get reverberating fart noises.
I was gonna say you'd have a lot more audio coming through than. Yeah, it wouldn't look pretty either. So
Splatter.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I wonder if YouTube would flag that just for that.
I don't know. But let's just say it's probably a good idea that we weren't live last week.
Yeah,
It
we
wouldn't
should
have been
done-
very
should have
good.
tested
However, with that said, we are live this week, and we're going to be going over the Gateway process, which was a CIA sort of project kind of thing conducted with the Monroe Institute. And as I was diving into that, I kind of went down a rabbit hole into the Stargate project as well, which is similar but slightly different, where it was also the CIA and military doing more psychic kind of training stuff. And anyway, so we're gonna
Rabbit Hole Studios.
oh my god, yeah, we're gonna dive into that stuff for this week. So again, make sure you hit that like, follow, and subscribe button. Make sure to comment down below what you guys are thinking. Be a part of the conversation. That's what this podcast is all about. So
In
without
fact, this is a viewer recommended.
yeah, this is viewer recommended topic, by the way. So yeah, and I'm sure our next episode or following episodes can also be viewer recommended if you guys recommend them. So make sure to leave your comments down below and we will get to them. We also respond to the comments live during the podcast, so feel free to join the conversation. First and foremost, have you guys ever heard of the Gateway process before, or the Stargate
I
project? Have you
think
guys?
so, but we probably have to go over it again so I make sure.
Yeah. So
I heard of Stargate, the TV show.
Yeah. So we did have an episode, I think it was actually our first Dark Pyramid episode, where Mike, I'm pretty sure you brought up the Stargate project. You mentioned that it was the government, they were doing remote viewing, like extra, stuff, and that there were theories that maybe they saw the Dark Pyramid or something, or like they knew something about it, what was going on in there. So anyways, that is kind of something that we have briefly touched on. But I want to start with the Gateway process, and then I'll go through what that one's all about. Then I'll go through Stargate project and kind of what differentiates the two, what we learned from them, and then what are the conspiracies about them. We can kind of talk more about everything. So essentially, the Gateway process, this is something developed by a guy named Robert Monroe. So I can go to our pictures here. Robert Monroe, he is the founder of the Monroe Institute. And essentially, he believed that you can enable people to have out-of-body experiences, or OBEs, which is what they're referred to. You can also get people to do remote viewing and explore altered states of consciousness using sound frequencies. And so really, yeah, so what this was all about, and it is kind of interesting because we have a whole episode on sound theory and different frequencies and how it impacts different things.
Yeah.
It seems like the government was kind of on to something here that maybe our, ancestors from the past maybe already knew a little bit something about. So anyways, essentially the military and intelligence agencies, they were interested in the potential use of these kinds of techniques to obviously enhance human potential and how they can utilize these psychic abilities. The gateway process was more of a kind of
like a training system, or
no, well, it wasn't super militarized or anything. It was essentially it was how we can advance human consciousness and how can we use these things. It did have a little bit to do with remote viewing and all of that, but it was kind of more of a general philosophy. I'll kind of dive into what the process is that they used and why and all of that as we go. It'll make a little bit more sense, but essentially what they would do is they used a process called hemisync technology. And hemisync technology is essentially where you play different frequencies of sound in each ear. And the idea is that you're creating synchronization between the brain's two hemispheres. And this helps induce a state of deep meditation or a trance sort of thing. And there's different frequencies that kind of have different effects and different results and stuff that you can use.
It's like that mind's eye thing I just shared.
Yeah, because you shared that to me. I'm pretty positive it's the same thing, or it's at least pretty close. So
one thing real quick.
Yeah.
Tyson, can you get rid of the product placement that's on the right side real quick?
On the right side?
Yes, you have a little product placement in the right corner of your screen there.
Of my screen?
Yes.
What the?
Something in the background there.
Yes.
My cat? What are you talking about? Oh,
no, it's a product placement for a place that reminds me of Mac and Mox on the right side of your screen. Or on your right side. It's on the left side of your screen, but it should be on your right side.
Did I cut it off there just barely?
Oh, is it on this? Okay.
I don't know.
Okay. Never mind. Okay, your name's covering. Okay, so it's fine. Okay, go back to it.
Okay. Okay.
I'm looking at the Discord where it's not to have your name, so I see it, but yeah.
Oh, I see what you're. Oh, the smiley face. Yeah, it's like a Jack in the Box thing or something. That's weird.
No, don't say the name.
Oh yeah, I don't know what it is. No, just kidding. Okay.
Looks like a toy.
I don't even know where that is. Actually, where is that?
It's a ghost.
I don't see it. I'm not sure what I'm
Some
looking at.
bag is in the view.
I don't know how it sees that. But anyways, whatever. Ignore it. I think
You can't see it on the YouTube. So it's
yeah. Okay, that's funny.
That was good.
Okay. I'm like, what the hell? I still don't even see it. So weird. It's the Men in Black spying on us, making sure we're not doing anything we're not supposed to. Okay, but essentially, yeah. So they use this hemisync technology, and they play different frequencies. And what they do is they'll play a frequency from, let's say, of 200 in your left ear and 210 in your right ear, and then the difference between those two. So it'd be 10 hertz. That'd be the frequency of 10. Is that supposedly plays a beat or something of that frequency, in your your brain perceives that frequency still as a third frequency playing, and based on what that
different what their responsibilities is.
Yeah, based on what that frequency is, it can help you with different things. Yeah,
both going off at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
watching something emotional while eating a sandwich or something. It's just like activates it because you're actually using both hemispheres at the same time.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Um,
I just remember like the right brain like logical and the other one like Oreos from a freaking
yeah, the left
TikTok.
left brain is logical, right brain's more creative and whatnot. So
Yeah.
so the goal is to kind of synchronize those things together, and based on this third frequency that your brain perceives, it can help you induce deep meditation or trance-like states, and based on that frequency, it can have different effects and stuff. So this was, like I
Interesting.
said, this whole kind of study was very all encompassing. Like, they were interested in altered states of consciousness, they were interested in out of body experiences, remote viewing. They were also, it kind of ties into this whole idea that we talked about also in a previous episode, might have been our Atlantis one, but we mentioned how consciousness is like something more, something greater than it's like
physical
times,
body.
yeah, it's like time, space, and consciousness, I think, is, like I said that in one of our, we probably have a short where I mentioned that or something. They're kind of going off this same idea, so it delves into concepts like the holographic universe, and that's the idea that human consciousness can transcend time and space, and it's kind of like connected in some kind of unified field or whatever, so we can access like universal knowledge and stuff. So it's really like interesting stuff.
Well, they say the human body is both a receiver and a transceiver, so we can tap into that, that
Right.
frequency of the universal consciousness. And like Tesla was famous for, he said he never had any like original thoughts. He got it all from the universe, and like the universe would tell him what to do, what experiments to do. He would like figure it out. But I mean, it's like you have to both the be able to get that reception and then be able to figure it out how to put that into like thought.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
also a very famous mathematician
That
who
myself.
he got all his theories through dreams. They said that dreams is a great way to tap into that universal consciousness, because
Oh, yeah.
your conscious mind's sleeping, but your unconscious mind's open to
Yeah.
that kind of frequency.
Yeah, so I'm gonna get into kind of a deeper dive of like those different frequencies and stuff and the effects that they had, because I think it's super fascinating, and it's really cool
I
some of
mean,
the stuff that they figured out and what they, well, I don't know if they necessarily figured it out, but this is stuff that was actually shown in their, during this process, which is really cool. So what they ended up doing was that third frequency is called a binaural beat, and the binaural beat is, I've got an image up on the screen. So you got the 100 hertz on one side, 104 hertz on the other side, and it's got the 4 hertz playing in the middle there. And I already kind of explained how that goes, but essentially based on what that frequency is, it can have a whole variety of different impacts. So one is in the 13 hertz to 30 hertz range. Those are called beta waves, and those are associated with like normal waking consciousness, alertness, active thinking, things like that. So people were having results utilizing these beta waves when problem solving, and it helped with problem solving, decision making, cognitive functions, things like that. But that wasn't really, again, the main goal of this process is more like out of body experiences and accessing different dimensions and transcending time and space and things like that. So that wasn't super important to this study, but I'm just going to go through all the waves because I think they're really cool.
Yeah, it's interesting.
The next one is alpha waves, which is 8 hertz to 12 hertz. And the alpha state is associated with light meditation and relaxation and creativity, things like that. And then there's theta waves, and things get a bit more interesting here. So this is the 4 hertz to the 7 hertz range. And keep in mind, we can only hear 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. So these aren't audible, sounds that we're necessarily hearing, but the brain's still apparently perceiving this, and it is benefiting your meditative state or your trance state or
Do you think
whatever.
it's the brain picking that up, or is it like our antenna picking up that frequency? And maybe transferring it into the brain.
That's the thing is like when you don't hear it, you must perceive it in some other ways, but how is that
How would
perception
you?
happening, right?
Exactly.
Well, because like
Yeah.
with other sounds, depending on the amplitude or how loud it is or whatever, you can still feel it, like your
Yeah,
body
you
can
get the
feel it.
vibration still.
Yeah, you still feel the vibration and it still resonates and impacts your body and stuff, but you don't hear it. So we're still sensing it in some capacity. So anyways, the theta waves though, those are associated with deep meditation and dream states and things like that. So theta waves were kind of a key target during the gateway process. And when participants entered this state, they often reported vivid imagery and intense creative inspiration. Some of them even had out of body experiences. And so the theta waves are linked to accessing deeper subconscious things and more spiritual insights. So that was another thing that some of these people took away from it, is they were having deep like spiritual like awakenings and insights and things like that. And this was an important state for remote viewing and things like that as well. Then there's only a couple more waves here that are listed. The next one is delta waves, which is 0.5 hertz to 3 hertz. And this is, again, kind of a deep, dreamless kind of sleep state. This is like the deepest stage of relaxation and consciousness. So in the gateway process, delta waves were occasionally targeted to induce the deepest levels of relaxation and to help participants experience profound states of rejuvenation and subconscious exploration. So this was also described as a state of like timelessness and whatnot. And later on, I'll get into specific examples of what some of these people have reported. And yet there was one guy where he was saying, he had an out of body experience and felt like he was out, he was experiencing that for hours, only to come back and realize it had only been a few minutes in the real world. So, like, super interesting. And then the last one is gamma waves, which is 30 hertz and above. So this would be auditory. This would be something that, assuming you have normal hearing, you would detect. But gamma waves were, again, not super primary to this, but they were experienced in some moments of deep connection and transcendence. This was kind of another spiritual one where people, when they would do the gamma waves, they would have kind of what they called like peak experiences, where they felt kind of oneness or like a connection to something greater or like a universal kind of connection. So yeah, that's kind of diving into those. They had some other techniques that they were doing. It was essentially, as far as I could tell, it's the same thing. The hemi-sync. I guess this was just a different way of classifying the different things, but they also classified them in like focus numbers. So for example, they had like focus 10, and this basically just meant that the mind was awake, but the body was asleep kind of thing. And so they had a whole bunch of different classifications for how they wanted to, like, I guess, measure this sort of stuff. And out of curiosity, because when I was researching this, I was like, how long did this take? Because so this started, but by the way, I don't think I mentioned in the beginning, but this was something that was started in the 1970s. And yeah, so this was started in the 1970s, and coincidentally, so was the Stargate project. So kind of weird. They both started in the same time frame. Where did that come from? Why did we all of a sudden just become interested in like that? And why is the government all of a sudden so interested in like, ooh, how do we, alter consciousness and all this stuff? Kind of suspicious, kind of interesting. But anyways, I looked up like, how long does this actually take? Like, is it just a matter of minutes or what? And essentially they said for beginners, this kind of like meditative work can actually take several sessions, because it takes time for your brain to be able to reach those like deeper levels of consciousness, like with the theta waves or the delta waves or whatever. So typically they'll start with alpha states, and then once your brain can get into those alpha states pretty regularly, then they kind of move on to these other states, the deeper levels and deeper states. It said for the more experienced participants, this would happen much more quickly, like within 30 to 60 minutes of a session. And sometimes after like 15 to 20 minutes after doing the hemisync tones. So anyways, super interesting. Like I kind of want to try that for myself, you know, and combine that with different things like flow states and whatnot, and see what you can get and what you can come up with. But that's pretty much the gateway process, and like what they did with the gateway process. This image is just like an out of body experience that I captured on my cell phone of some guy. So yeah, it's a real photo.
Good job.
Yep. I just happened, I was walking in the room. I was at the Pentagon or wherever the CIA, does this stuff. I just happened to be in the area, and walked around the corner, and it was just, there it was. I didn't, I just stumbled on it. So you got to take a picture when you have the opportunity. So, yeah. And then, okay, so that's the gateway process. And then as I was kind of, diving into that, it mentioned things like the Stargate project, because it was another instance where the government is investigating psychic capabilities and trying to figure out this kind of stuff. And it's like, weird. Like, what's going on here? Why are you guys doing that? And so the Stargate project also ran in the 1970s, and this went until 1995. So it was like 25 years they were doing this.
Wow.
Which, kind of crazy, which is very suspicious to me as we kind of, I'll quickly do a quick rundown of it.
Kind of strange that they would keep doing it if they didn't have any kind of success with it.
That's exactly what I'm thinking, because at the end they basically conclude, oh, it's not really that reliable doing the, we had
it for 25 years.
We had some success, but it wasn't.
We just had money to burn. We might as well do it on something.
Yeah, exactly. Like, why would you do it for 25 years? Why would you commit 25 years of research to something that is not reliable? And so, anyways, what they were trying to do,
it was easy work.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe it was just an easy paycheck.
They're still getting funded, and they were just like,
right. They're like, well,
this cartoon helps you. Watch this cartoon.
Yeah.
All right.
They're like, cool, we can go play video games. Will you guys just like watch TV or something? Like, yeah.
Play this video game.
Another thing interesting about this is that also Russia was doing the same thing that we were. So they're doing also the remote viewers and this same kind of research. So I don't know if it's more competition thing or just trying to figure out what they could do.
That is definitely part of it.
On each other, like they're still doing it. We're gonna keep on doing it.
That is definitely part of it. Yeah.
No, they kept on doing it because we were still doing it.
You could look into anybody's stuff.
So that's what the Stargate project was about. So the Stargate project. Again, this ran from the 1970s to like 1995, and this was specifically focused on psychic phenomena like remote viewing to gather intelligence. Like that's the purpose of this research, of this project. So the gateway process was more about this kind of general, like, what's the next stage of consciousness and how to, consciousness transcending time and space and all that stuff. Stargate project is all about reconnaissance and using remote viewing to gather intelligence. Like that is the purpose of this project. So the program involved the CIA and the U.S. Army, and they aim to use psychic abilities for national security purposes. And essentially what they did is they had participants that were, practiced in remote viewing, and they would take these people and attempt to perceive and have them describe distant locations and objects or events even without obviously being there, because it's remote viewing. So this is where the term kind of like psychic spies kind of started to come up. And essentially these psychic spies, they were tasked with gathering intelligence for military purposes. And Yeah, so the key differences, I mean, I think we kind of get it, but key differences is the Gateway Project was explored altered states of consciousness for kind of broader spiritual, metaphysical kind of things, whereas the Stargate Project was a intelligence gathering sort of deal. Um, so, kind of touching on going back to what you were saying is again, both of these started happening in the 1970s, and this was kind of the height of the Cold War.
Hmm.
And the U.S. and the Soviet Union were both exploring unconventional methods, and they were trying to gain the edge over each other and whatnot. Um, and then yeah, the U.S. they got wind that the Russians are experimenting with like psychic phenomenon and psychic research and stuff. So this kind of led to like a psychic arms race, and the U.S. they felt compelled to investigate the potential of psychic phenomenon to ensure they weren't falling behind. And
So did the
so,
Russians start first, or did we?
from what I understood when I was doing research and stuff on this, is it sounds like we heard that the Russians were doing that, and
Mhm.
so we jumped on board. But I don't know for sure on that. I could be wrong. Um,
Interesting.
yeah, it's
As a
also
pissing contest.
yeah, exactly. Well, and then right, depending on who you ask, who knows, right? And so yeah, there was also lots of like scientific curiosity and stuff about this kind of in the 60s and 70s because uh, there was a whole lot of interest in human potential and consciousness, and it's more spiritual things obviously when you're thinking about like the 60s and
Psychedelic
70s and
drugs.
drugs and all that stuff. Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot more of a cultural kind of movement in that direction as well, and that is believed to kind of have contributed to it. um so yeah. Um, so what were kind of the results? What are some things that we got from this? So the Stargate project supposedly had mixed success with the remote viewing. Um, and they did have some. There's this one guy. I'll go back to our pictures. I've got a picture. This is the just Project Stargate, a book I found. I didn't um, read through the whole book or anything, but Civil War, and then you got this guy here named Joseph McMonigle or McMonigle, not exactly sure, but he was one of the remote viewers that was part of Stargate, Project Stargate, or Stargate Project, and he claimed to have successfully pinpointed the location of a Soviet submarine that was actually a different classification of Soviet submarines that the government wasn't even aware of at the time. So there are some pretty substantial results that came from this that
Mhm.
are beyond random chance. It's pretty amazing how accurate you could be with some of these examples, yet they still come forward and say, "Oh, it wasn't reliable." It kind of makes me think like, I mean, there's no way you can say that isn't substantive. Having somebody pinpoint the location of a submarine at a secret Soviet military base that wasn't
Yeah.
even like how? Like that's insane. You can't tell me that doesn't mean something. And just because you had a whole bunch of other attempts or you had a bunch of other people trying or whatever, that just tells me that you're going to disregard those people, or you're probably hiding the even crazier results, the ones that actually
Yeah.
do matter, or the people that did have a really high success rate. You're not even mentioning them in the studies, right? There's no way. And so, anyways, that's just one example. I've got a few more examples later on that we can get into, but especially involving this dude. This guy was he was kind of a critic of the government when they declassified everything because he was saying that the results were more substantive and not taken as seriously as he felt they should have. Um, However, so again, despite these kinds of successes, the results were deemed inconsistent, and some of the remote viewing sessions were accurate, but other ones were vague or off target. and the lack of reliability made it difficult for the military and intelligence agencies to fully trust it. So that's kind of where they left things off. They declassified the documents from the CIA report. While remote viewing sometimes provided accurate information, it just wasn't reliable enough, according to them. So they terminated it in 1995, and a report produced by the American Institute for Research concluded that remote viewing was statistically insignificant in providing actionable intelligence. So it's kind of where we got left off with the Gateway Project, or not the Gateway Project, the Stargate Project. But the Gateway one, again, they dived into all those different things. They declassified everything in the early 2000s, and essentially the report suggested that consciousness might transcend time and space, and that reality could be holographic in nature. They tied this with like quantum mechanics and like a bunch of other things, neuroscience and Eastern philosophy, and
What kind of fits into the simulation theory then?
yeah, it does kind of tie into that, huh? And so, I mean, that's kind of what they came out to. It was nothing conclusive, but again, they had a lot of evidence and a lot of different things kind of suggesting this and kind of pointing in that direction. But also, you know, personal development potential, because they did have a lot of people that are participants that claim they experienced significant psychological and spiritual benefits. So
yeah, I mean, if you train your brain like that, I'm sure you could like achieve flow state much easier, or meditate much better, or
oh sure,
you can do all kinds
absolutely.
of things. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, the
you gotta
more
train like that.
you got to think, like, if consciousness is kind of on this like different spectrum where we can connect to some deeper level of it that, you know, all of us can connect to, then yeah, there's got to be some, like, you know, powerful stuff you can do with the brain, or powerful
Yeah.
stuff you can do just even on a personal level. Um, and so with all that said, though, it does kind of beg the question, like, you know, what did they report? What did they not report? What, you know, what was lost or covered up or removed, you know, what, and so some critics and former participants, even including that guy that I mentioned, they argue that the results, especially from Stargate, may have been downplayed or covered up. And I think that's
I mean, it'd be a
highly
valuable
probable.
tool.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure the government doesn't want people good at doing remote viewing and looking at their stuff, you know, so they're gonna say this stuff doesn't work, you know, don't even try it. It's not even worth the time.
Yeah, exactly. Like, why are they going to release something, especially when this started out as like a Cold War, we want advantage on a foreign adversary? Like,
And then
why
they
are
let
they
it go
going to then,
25 years.
yeah, and then they went 25 years with it? Like, come
I
on.
mean, you're gonna do that. I mean, sure, there's plenty of money for war during the Cold War because everybody was afraid of the Russians, but I mean, you still don't want to just throw away money, especially if you're not getting any results.
Right, you would think that they would have put that money towards something that was actually valuable, especially during the Cold War, right? Because at that time, like, it's an arms race in multiple different ways, and you want to make sure your resources are going towards the right things, and you know, that you're being competitive, right? If you're wasting a bunch of money and resources, then it doesn't it doesn't make us look
Yeah,
very
it doesn't
good.
help you at all.
Yeah, it doesn't help us at all.
I
So
mean, it actually it hinders you, you know.
yeah, it hinders us. And so again, that just doesn't, I can't wrap my head around why they
Yeah, that
would
doesn't
do
really add
something
up.
for
25
25
years of
years
nothing, and then
and just come up with nothing, basically. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. But so the idea is that maybe there's other results that they didn't declassify. You know, maybe
yeah,
there's results that
I'm
they're
sure
like,
there
you know
is.
what, and here's my thought is, I imagine with remote viewers or these psychic spies, you probably have some that are better than others, or some that had better results than others.
Oh
And
yeah,
I imagine the ones that had the best results are the ones that were consistent. Like, all you got to do is take them out of the data pool And all of a sudden, that just skewed your results. So now your results look like they're not as reliable because you just took the most reliable players out of the equation. And
Yeah.
so I feel like all you got to do is just not include those people in your report, and then boom, you've got assets that are, reliable and can provide the reliable information and intelligence that you're looking for without giving away your giving away your secrets and everything that you discovered. So
I heard something about this like a long time ago. Like I was watching a TV show. And I remember they were talking about this and like out of body experience and out of viewing, remote viewing and stuff. And they were interviewing this guy, and he said he was one of them. And he said something that's like stuck with me because it's like somebody like me. It's just like he said like people who like experience migraines tend to have a higher success rate with remote viewing
hmm,
because there's like something with their chemistry about that gives them migraines also that like I was like
dang.
that's me.
Yeah.
I get migraines. Maybe I have psychic powers. I need to train them.
Try and do the hemisync thing and see if you can reach a level of consciousness or whatever that helps you do that. I don't know.
Just sit and
Play
listen
around
to
with
music
it.
I can't even hear all day.
Yeah,
do that.
exactly. Yeah.
Like if you got
Exactly.
paid for it, like in a study like that.
I have my headphones on like for 6 hours a day anyways.
Yeah.
Have it off in the background.
One of the interesting stories I heard about the remote viewing is that they asked one of them to look at the far side of the moon. And one of the remote viewers actually saw
Ooh.
structures over there and like cities that were there.
Yeah, so one of the examples that I'll get into, I think this was part of I think it was that same guy actually if I have to look at my notes
I feel
again.
like one of the first steps is learning how to be a lucid dreamer too.
Yep, lucid
yeah.
dreaming, that was a big part of it. As well with the whole gateway process.
I lucid dreamed once and it was fantastic. Because I was just like, hey, I'm dreaming.
Yeah.
I'm gonna fly. So I started flying. And it was I felt amazing.
That's awesome. Dang.
Yeah.
That's
It
did
felt
that
like the
just
air got
happen
thick
or do you
and I
feel
was,
like you did
swimming through
something
it.
before that led to it?
I don't know. I just like I just got lucky. I was just like, wait a minute, I'm dreaming.
That's
And it's like,
awesome.
all right, I'm flying. It's like the air just got heavy, like thick around me, like water, and I started lifting up, and it just took off.
Yeah. And the other kind of thing about this too is sure they may have declassified everything and they claimed that they ended the operation in 1995 or the early 2000s or whatever, but who's to say they didn't just start a whole new project, or who's to say that they didn't continue the project afterwards? Who knows? But they totally could just be
25 years.
right. And then
how to do it right.
yeah, what if we don't find out till 2050 and they're like, oh yeah, we were doing more stuff about this, but we didn't say
It was
anything
Project
at the time.
Heaven's Gate.
Like, dude. Yeah, so that's one of the other kind of theories that these like critics and stuff have. And so okay, now I'll get into some of the examples from the gateway process, then we'll get into some examples from the Stargate project of the different participants and what they experienced. So for the gateway process for out of body experiences, I think I briefly mentioned this one, but one of the participants, after several sessions of deep meditation using the hemisync binaural beats, he reported to have an intense out of body experience and felt detached from his body. He described, or I guess it just says they, so I don't know about he, but they described floating around the room and observing their own body in a state of sleep. Then they moved outside their physical location, and some participants even described being able to visit distant locations, feeling free from the usual limitations of their bodies. So, pretty interesting, and these experiences align with some of the goals that the gateway process was trying to do, which was induce these kinds of states. And let's see, this again, they had a lot of these participants, they had some personal and spiritual kind of encounters as well with these kinds of experiences, and they were able to visit remote locations on Earth or even in extraterrestrial realms. So, yeah.
Are there any examples of them traveling
Dimensions like in
interdimensionally?
I don't have like
exist
specific,
on a different frequency and stuff.
right. I don't have like
Basically, they're
specific
like
example of
Nightcrawler.
different dimensions, but
Yeah.
but yeah, my understanding is that in a sense, like when you're having an out of body experience, you're almost on a different dimension because you're not like interacting with everything else in the real world like in your dimension, but you're still able to view that stuff. So it's almost like you're in some kind of adjacent reality, but not quite the same
Yeah.
exact reality.
Yeah, you're like
I wonder if that's
Doctor
how it is
Strange or
for
your
Ghost, you know, you're kind of like
Avatar:
you know,
Last Airbender.
Yeah.
interact with our dimension, but you can't actually,
Yeah.
fully interact with it. But you can view it, or you can see what's going on, but you can't really participate in anything. You know.
Right.
I got a
right.
question. If you could remote view right now, where would you go?
Like anywhere on the planet or anywhere in the universe, or
Anywhere you can
just
think of.
anywhere I
Well,
can think of, huh?
I'll go past the moon. It's gonna take me a while to get there.
That's fair. Oh man, dude, to
You want
remote.
to see the dark side of the moon? See those structures that people were talking about?
Yeah, that would be really cool to actually go to the moon because I want to see space and I want to see Earth from the moon and I want to see like, you know, I want to see what's up there
Yeah.
and stuff. Like that would be cool.
Be cool to go to Mars too and see that.
I would want to go see the face on Mars and see like what the fuck that's about. It's like, is that real?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think actually I'd probably change my answer to Mars because you get you get everything I just said about the moon, except you get to actually see if there's aliens there at one point. And so, yeah, that'd be freaking awesome. Definitely space. I would definitely go to space.
Okay, but what about Earth? Let's keep on Earth now.
Keeping on Earth, dude,
that Black Pyramid.
I know. I want to discover some secrets is what I want to do, but I don't know.
Oh, let's go find where some dark pyramids are.
Let's go find some dark pyramids. You know what? That's exactly what I would do. If I had remote viewing powers, I would start investigating our grand conspiracy. I would be looking into all the dark pyramids and looking into
Antarctica,
looking into the hollow Earth and all that
Antarctica
stuff.
Would be cool too.
Antarctica.
You don't have to worry about being frozen or anything like that. You know.
All the places that you can't go. Yeah, exactly.
That's deep into the ocean. You know, maybe see some.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure it's just dark pitch blackness down there.
But let's say you're remote viewing, so you would be able to see down there. Like maybe
I'm pretty sure my
adjusts or something.
Thalassophobia still kick in even if I was a remote viewer. It's like, no.
Yeah.
No one can hurt me, but I don't like being down here.
Oh, dude, that'd be so scary to be like remote viewing, swimming down deep into the ocean, and you see like some freaking kraken or like giant shark megalodon or something down there.
Or you like remote viewing down there and you see like a remote, like a spiritual fucking whale or something. It's like,
oh my god. Dude, okay. Oh, that is an interesting idea because if you are technically, when you're remote viewing, if you're on like an adjacent dimensional realm, it's like not exactly our realm, but not exactly like a different, dimension altogether. It's still kind of connected to ours. That means that other entities can go into that realm as well. So what if other people are doing that, or other creatures? What if other creatures exist in that space? Like these spiritual kind of dimensional beings.
To find spirits that are
like remote viewing is basically like you're in
the
the fucking mist. And you're just like, shit.
What if you remote view somewhere and then someone else remote views to that same place and you guys can see each other? Whoa, that would be crazy.
Hey, what's up?
But then, oh man, that sounds like a freaking movie, to be honest, because you remote view somewhere, some other guy remote views somewhere, you think that he's just part of the world, right? You think he's just some dude that you're looking at, and he thinks that you're just some dude that you're looking at, but then you find out that each other are not interacting with the world, and you're both remote viewing, and like, oh dude, that sounds like a movie idea. That'd be awesome. Okay.
Book idea. It's called the Body Thief. Is by Anne Rice, and this guy was really good at astral projecting, and he taught a vampire how to do it. And while that vampire was outside his body, he stole his body, moved into his body with his spirit. His body is really
Whoa.
sick, and so he took over that vampire's body, got all the vampire's strength and all that. But that was pretty good book. But
Huh.
I
That
wonder if
sounds
there's people
cool.
out there that do that,
I
wait for people
wonder,
to leave their
man.
body, astrally projecting, and then take over their body. Or
Well, and what
it's like,
if the more power you have over it, or the more control you have over it, the more like substantive or whatever, the more real that you are in that dimensional space,
yeah,
right?
the more you
So
can access the control and
yeah, I
like
don't
that. Like I
know.
was telling you that god Thoth, who was back in the Egypt day, was supposed to be he was believed to be like an Anunnaki, but that's how he would change bodies. He would actually project and go into a new body, leave his old body to decay, and then have a body that was cloned from his old body,
Hmm.
and that's how he lived forever.
Yeah,
So what if you could do that in the future? If you
I
learn how to
was
astral project,
I was thinking
make
about
your
that
own
earlier
clone, and then take
today.
over your own body.
I was thinking about that earlier today because I was thinking, okay, let's just theorize that hypothetically consciousness is something outside of time and space, something that you can access outside of time and space. That theoretically means that you can access that and then enter back into time and space at some different point, right?
Yeah, well,
And
you could
so
time travel that way, right?
you could time travel that way. What if you extract your consciousness up into this big conscious like ocean or whatever the hell it is, and then you go back down into maybe a cloned body of you from in the future or something, and boom, now your consciousness is in the future, and you've just maybe you've got a whole new healthy body, you've got a whole
Yeah,
new whatever. Like this could lead to immortality in a sense that you're just skipping your consciousness to the next generation with a whole new body, a whole new everything. Like, yeah, this is like sci-fi craziness except more legit. Like, um, so anyways, let's dive into some of the examples from the Stargate project because the other ones from the Gateway process are just kind of like, oh, I had experience with a spiritual like entity that was friendly and stuff like that, which I feel like we get from lots of the druggy people too. They say the same thing. So so anyway, Stargate project, that Joseph Monagle guy, he has actually a couple examples that are interesting. So we talked about the one. He said he successfully located a new class of Soviet nuclear submarine in 1979. So this was in 1979. He was tasked with remote viewing a secret Soviet military base, and from here he was able to draw detailed sketches of a large submarine that was being constructed, which intelligence agencies were unaware of at the time. So, but later on, satellite imagery confirmed the existence of this submarine, and it's now known as the Typhoon class of submarine. So, this was actually pretty significant. He was able to draw these detailed sketches of what this thing actually looked like, and they could confirm that, confirmed later on that this was actually legit. And this provided actionable intelligence about a Cold War military asset. Um, there was another guy. His name's Pat Price, and Pat Price. Let's see his example. He reportedly identified and described a secret Soviet military installation that the U.S. government was unaware of. Price was given the coordinates of an undisclosed location and asked to describe what he saw. So then he provided detailed descriptions of a building and equipment at this base, and this was later corroborated by intelligence sources. So it sounds like the intelligence agencies, they had an idea of like where a possible military base was. They said, check this place out, and he was able to draw the building and equipment and stuff that was at the base, which they then later corroborated. So pretty incredible. I mean, things like this, it makes me think, how can you possibly conclude that this isn't significant or reliable? It's
yeah.
like you
I
would
mean,
have to
you don't get
continue studying these
one
people.
confirmation out of 10. It's still pretty good information to get for
even if
basically zero risk.
yeah, even if it's 1 out of 100, like I don't know,
Yeah.
man, like to get something that you couldn't possibly know otherwise, like that's pretty incredible.
These are
But
very secure locations. So, I mean, imagine trying to get somebody in there as an actual person, you know?
yeah, yeah. And it was significant enough that they actually had some other operations, and this is from ChatGPT. So take the, I mean, most of this stuff's just all is ChatGPT research, but take these operations with a grain of salt because I didn't look into them outside of ChatGPT. But GPT says that there's Operation Center Lane and an Operation Grill Flame, which were additional remote viewing missions that took place where these Stargate participants provided intelligence on military targets. So, in several cases, remote viewers were able to describe the locations of these military installations, missing aircrafts, hidden weapons, things like that. I mean, it sounds like they put together a special, like, psychic spy team, and they were like, all right, let's go, Justice League, here we go. And so one of the examples from that, though, is they were tasked with locating a downed Soviet aircraft in Africa, and the team was able to they actually provided the coordinates that helped guide military forces to the location. So this time they weren't given the coordinates, they actually provided the coordinates to the government. So that's pretty incredible too. And then there's also multiple examples of remote viewers assisting from the Stargate project, assisting law enforcement agencies in locating missing people and describing scenes of unsolved crimes and things like that. So while the Stargate, it's interesting to me how the Stargate project comes out and says, oh, it's not reliable stuff, but then they continue to use them for other things, and that they are still used for other things to this day. So it's like, interesting how it wasn't reliable, but it is now all of a sudden. So
not reliable, but we're gonna still use it. So
yeah, now the craziest example for me, and I like, this just sounds freaking awesome, and it gets back to kind of the whole time travel and everything that we were talking about. But the same guy, this Joseph Monagle, he says in a more speculative experiment, he was asked to remote view Mars, and he was supposed to focus on a time period over 1 million years ago. And so during this session, he described seeing large ancient structures and tall humanoid beings who had once inhabited the planet. So, I mean, take that for what you will, but
kind of strange to give him the exact time, you know.
This is the same dude that predicted the freaking Soviet nuclear submarine and got that correct. So I don't know. And the fact that the government asked him to remote view Mars 1 million years ago, why would they do that exactly?
Yeah, it's like they had some
What entrance? Yeah,
about.
why would they be interested in that? Like, come
Where
on,
did they
man.
get that idea from?
Yeah, that's they're just like, how about you just something crazy, just like look at Mars, like, I don't know, 1 million years ago or something. Like, just, I don't know.
I'm sure it'll be nothing, but
he was like, okay, I'll just I'll look back like a long time ago, like maybe 500,000. They're like, no, 1 million. Make sure you like 1 million. We want to make sure it's back far enough.
April 2nd, blah blah blah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Okay, fine. I don't know why you're picking that date. But whatever.
You know, something random like April 2nd. Make sure you do April 2nd. They're like, wait a second, what?
What?
And so
like you know something already.
Yeah. So anyways, it's like, man, so that kind of brings up the question, what other reasons did they have for engaging with these types of experiments and testing these psychic, spies and stuff? Like, why else are we doing this kind of thing? And who gave them the information to look back at Mars 1 million years ago? Because that makes me think that the Men in Black are involved, and the Men in Black are like, okay, here's something you can do to test them. Try this. And if they give you this answer, we know it's accurate. If they don't, we know it's not. And so, I don't know. My
I mean,
thought
who's gonna come
is,
up with that off the top of their head? I
yeah,
went to
right.
Mars and I saw this a million years ago. I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
why are you gonna make that stuff up? I mean,
Right. And sure, why not? Sure, it could be fake, whatever, blah, 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 but that's boring.
you can't
Uh,
really you check against anything. You're like, oh, that's not what we had on this side here.
yeah, exactly.
Unless the Men in Black were involved, but
Right. But then that kind of ties back into the gateway process of like, okay, why are we trying to access non physical realms? And like, why are we trying to like expand our consciousness and stuff? Because that
yeah,
makes me think of the tech tree, the freaking research tree. Like, are we being tested to see if we are capable of doing certain things yet from a consciousness, perspective? Are we good enough to go to the next tier of
yeah.
consciousness? Are we good enough to be involved in the interstellar,
Maybe that
intergalactic alien
way,
community?
projecting your consciousness somewhere is a valid form of space travel. You set up a base somewhere, send a bunch of robots there, and then everybody projects their consciousness there, and that
Yeah.
way they don't have to go through the whole, sleeping in the ship for 30 years or whatever, and like a
Right.
cryo chamber. They just project themselves to another planet,
Well,
and they're
and
all set up.
then that goes back to when we were talking about the Dark Pyramids and the Dark Pyramids being like basically fast travel points and like wormhole points or whatever. Like this is where you
Yeah, they're like wormhole beacons and also refuel stations for when you get there.
right.
Because I mean,
And if
going through a
that's the
wormhole, I'm sure uses a lot
case,
of energy.
if that's the case, you must be able to harness whatever that conscious like power is to be able to transcend time and space. Like you must, I bet in order to be a freaking wormhole pilot or whatever, you probably have to do that. You almost
Yeah,
have to like freaking, I don't know how to explain it, but you have to like
maybe like
toss your
they're going
consciousness
through a
up in the
wormhole
air.
is not
Yeah.
possible for a physical body, so they have to use like an android that you can project your spirit into, and so it's not actual physical people going through the
Yeah,
things. Like
exactly.
you look at the Greys, they're almost all exact clones. What if they're just like little robots that people project or the aliens project themselves into?
That's what it makes me think about. Because imagine this. Imagine you throw a ball up into the air, like in front of you, and
Yeah,
then you have to run and then go and then catch the ball, right? So you throw the ball up. So you throw your consciousness up into the air. You run or you travel or whatever, and then your consciousness lands back down and you catch it. Like that's what it makes me think of. Is like maybe you have to be able to do that because that's the only way for your consciousness to travel through a wormhole or something like that.
yeah.
Because consciousness is something that transcends time and space, so you can't necessarily make it travel the same way.
We don't know what
Perhaps.
kind of forces you get acted on you in a wormhole. I mean, maybe it's
Right.
extreme gravity or something that a physical body can't
Well,
withstand.
if you don't want any sort of physical, you know, whatever problems to happen with your brain or with your body or
Yeah,
whatever, who knows what that traveling, we might be able to make something that can survive that sort of travel, but what if we can't? What if a living organism can't
can't actually go
necessarily
through
do
that.
that, or at least
Yeah,
consciousness can't do that, so it needs to travel through its own means. And so I don't know, maybe that's kind of what what that's all about. But yeah, it is interesting to think about like how this could all tie into like that greater conversation of our whole thing,
civilization.
and what else are the government using these people for that we don't even know about. Like
Yeah,
they could be remote viewing Atlantis or remote viewing freaking the Hollow Earth, or be searching for orichalcum veins without having to use their physical body,
yeah.
like and then again, this could be a Men in Black like studying us and getting information on our consciousness and you know our psychic capabilities and whatnot. So
Maybe it's a bad thing. Maybe they're like saying they don't want us to get these powers or whatever because it makes us harder to control. Because
that's true
like they said
too.
that before, um, well, if you believe in the ancient alien theory, they said before they actually spliced the 2 chromosomes, that we were
Yeah.
actually more telepathic and able to do more out of body stuff like that before that, and they took that away from us because it's hard to control people when they can talk to each other telepathically or visit each other in dreams.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you got like
Yeah,
shamans who
that's a good
like
point.
back in the day used to do that to be able to communicate with each other across like far distances.
That's a
They used
good
to be able to
point.
do out of body projection and be able to talk to each other that way. And
Right, because
I
if
mean,
they're trying to control us, the number one thing they have to control is our ability to communicate and communication.
Exactly.
So,
I mean, you don't want people that you can't listen to be able to make plans behind your back, you know.
I
So
mean,
you're
you
gonna cut
can't.
off that
This is why,
telepathy.
you know, like the people of North Korea can't like communicate with the outside world. You know,
Exactly.
like
That's kind of
exactly.
like the almost like the story of the Tower of Babel, because
Yeah,
everybody could communicate before because they were all telepathic. There was no language,
yeah,
and then they did the slicing, and everybody had to learn language, and they couldn't communicate anymore, and so
yep,
they all separated. They're easy to control that way.
right.
Interesting thing I heard. I
Oh,
was
and it
listening to Joe
prevented
Rogan
them
this
from
morning.
completing the tower. And what if we're building towards something? What if we're figuring things out and they're using this to prevent us from doing that? You
Yeah,
know?
I mean, the basic thing about the Tower of Babel is that they stopped all telepathic communication because we all spoke the same language, so everybody got along together. You know,
Yeah.
we all helped each other out with everything. But then you put language as a barrier. You got to can't talk to that guy. You think he's an enemy because you can't communicate with them. You know, there's going to be misunderstanding. There's going to be conflict,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just. I mean, you want that if you're going to be controlling a large population.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially on a planetary scale. Yeah.
And like I was saying before, I heard an interesting thing on Joe Rogan. He was talking to another podcaster called, I think his name was Ryan Shaw. I'll have to look it up later. But he was saying that like animals are more telepathic than us. Like, have you ever heard about
Makes
how
sense.
animals, like dogs, can tell that their owners are coming home, even if it's not right now on schedule and stuff, before they even
Oh,
get
yeah.
there, before the car even gets in like
Yep.
hearing distance?
Dude, they did
And
some
like,
crazy studies on that, and like that's like it's legit where
yeah,
the dog will know, like it will go to the same place or whatever, like look out the window and
yeah,
know when you're coming, even if you're coming at different times of the day, random times or whatever, from different directions, like it's nuts, dude. It's really cool.
yeah, or like the way that they communicate with each other. Like, I mean, it could just be body language, but they seem to get a lot more communication just by, being near each other. Or like my dogs, whenever they're sleeping, they're always sleeping in the same position, which is strange because they're not in the same. I mean, they're the same area, but I
Yeah,
mean, they're sleeping. I mean, they're
right.
not going to be sitting there staring at each other while they're sleeping, but they always seem to end up in the same position.
Yeah.
It's strange.
Yeah, animals definitely have.
It's cute.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's definitely something else to them that we've kind of lost along the way, you know,
or was taken from us.
or was taken from us, right? Or prevented from continuing. Yeah. So,
By lizard people.
oh my god. Yep.
Bam, bam.
But I hate to say it, I think that we're probably completely off on all of this because the Men in Black didn't crash the stream this time. So we must be wrong.
Yeah.
We can't be right about this. There's no way.
Nobody's watching either.
Also, we forgot to mention at the beginning of the episode, and I feel bad because I didn't realize I had the graphic not turned on, but we
Yeah, I was gonna
make
say,
sure
if you're
to
doing that shit.
yeah, for anyone watching, still watching or watching later, we do have an affiliate link with Ugly Chew's all natural dog treats, so make sure to check them out, you guys. We got links in the description below. We've got a coupon code where you can get
free shipping.
Yeah, free shipping, and I think there's like a discount as well, discount code or something if you use the link. And so yeah, make sure to check them out. It does support the channel, so we really appreciate it. And yeah, so make sure to check them out. And
Or
then
you get an affiliate with Jack in the Box.
Yeah, I might have to reach out to them. They might be interested in this kind of thing. Who knows? Their audience probably is interested in this kind of thing.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
they have the munchie meal. They're definitely
Except I was gonna say we might have to do the podcast at like 11 at night or something though for to get that to really capitalize on that audience. So
change the name to like a taco box.
yeah.
Taco box podcast.
Yeah. We have to do like a late night version of this podcast or something. After dark version.
Late night is like 8 o'clock. So
yeah. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, I think we can wrap it up there. Anything else you guys wanted to mention or
No.
No?
I mean, I was gonna go into something like about the out of body or the near death experiences, how lots of people seem to have those, and how that like proves that there's some kind of consciousness. Or...
Dude, I think that deserves a whole episode in and of itself.
Yeah,
Near
I think so
death
too.
experiences. That stuff.
Have you ever heard of the experiment where they took a body right before it was gonna die? They put it on a scale, and it was like a small, like couple grams.
yeah, the 8 grams.
Yeah.
Yeah, 8 grams, that it changed. It lost something when the person died.
Yeah, that's crazy. That is crazy, man. I don't know. So,
yeah.
All right. Well, I guess we'll wrap it up there. Thank you guys for watching this episode of the Full Grown Pizza Podcast. Make sure, again, to hit that like, follow, subscribe button, as well as the notification bell, so you know when we go live next. And
check us out on Instagram.
Yep, follow us on the social media accounts. We've been posting shorts on Instagram and YouTube as well, so make sure to follow us over there. And
Ugly chews.
Pick up some ugly chews for your doggos. They're all natural dog treats. So
Yeah,
eat them for your cat, but I don't think they like them.
Yeah, they might not like it. Yeah. All right.
They're very picky.
Okay, we'll wrap it up there. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you.